Indian origin diamond merchant Mehul Choksi is accused by Indian law enforcement bodies of defrauding Punjab National Bank and has been declared a fugitive from justice. His assets in India were seized and sold as part of a recovery process. He is still wanted in India for questioning. The government of India is pursuing Choksi's extradition from Antigua, where he's been a citizen since 2017. Meanwhile, Choksi mysteriously disappeared from Antigua only to be found a few days later in Dominica, which is also in the Caribbean. So what exactly happened? Choksi spoke to me at great length to tell his story. So what your wife Preeti told me was that on the 23rd of May, around 5 p.m., you left the house, your house, to go out for dinner. And you did not come back. You went missing. Your wife then, with a couple of other people, went to the police station, lodged a missing persons report. The police could not find you. That this is the Antiguan police who could not find you that night. And then the next thing we heard was that you were in Dominica. This was a few days later. But tell us first, after you left the house at 5 p.m. on the 23rd of May, what happened thereafter?
Well, basically, I was to meet Barbara and we were to go for dinner. Normally on every day I go for a walk around this time.
You are talking about
5:30 I go for a walk.
Yes.
Barbara Jabarik. And I took my car, went to pick her up. She opened the house and she said, "Why don't you come in for a few minutes?" Because I thought that maybe she was preoccupied. I felt nothing wrong. I just parked the car just next to her house, opposite her house, which is maybe 2 meters away. You can see from her house too. And I walked back and entered the house. And she was having a glass of wine. She walked around, she was watching both the kids, and she made me sit on a sofa. And just after 3-4 minutes after my sitting there, and she was also sitting there, but she was looking at both the side of the doors, and I heard a huge noise coming out from the main door. The house is such, her house is such that on one side there is a road and the other side there is a marina. Okay, this is how most of the houses in Jolly Harbor are. Even most of the houses in Jolly Harbor are like this. So first there was a group of people with a big noise. It was like an event management. They were dressed in blue and they were, I don't remember it too well, and the jersey was maybe gray or light blue or something like this. And there was a huge noise. Tall, big guys, 7 to 8 of them entered, mostly from the main door, and 2 or 3 came from the marina side. And they just said that, "We know who you are Mehul Choksi, and we are taking you for interrogation." And they just took me over. It means they, 2 of them took my hands, 2 of them took my legs, couple of them have, one person put his hand around my neck, and I was taken over by them. And I tried to fight the situation because this kidnap story was on for over last 3 years since the election in India in 2019. Means end of 2018 when the whole election thing was coming up. I was told the plane is arriving. In fact, this This news was already in Times of India too, that they're sending a plane to pick me up. And many people on the street would keep on saying they're watching you and they're going to take you up and they're going to kill you. All these rumors for again and again every 2-3 months will keep on coming. So when this happened, I never, some of my good friends here, business people say that Antigua is such a safe place that nothing like this could happen. So don't worry about it. And that made me bold. And my main activity was mostly walking on the island because of my health. The most exercise I could do is walk at the pace, and probably in a day it could start from 1.5 hours to even 3-4 hours. Time and again, I would go for a walk, sit back in the house. I would go for a walk if the weather is good. Even at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, I would walk on the road and come back to the house, sit again, go for a walk. Most of the people on the island knew about this particular thing. And whoever, somebody could be, most likely I would walk alone. And if there are friends or somebody on the road, we would walk together. And this was a normal activity. So I could imagine that this was going towards kidnapping. Of course, they said that we are taking you for interrogation. There is agencies from India, and we are taking you for interrogation. But I was trying to fight. I could imagine that this could be a kidnap plot that which I was hearing. And since vaccination came, it was about the third warning. People told me that this vaccination are given in return for you. They were also on the Facebook, this particular news. If you go to India giving vaccination, you would see, is this an exchange of Mehul Choksi or something like that? So I could very well imagine that this is a plot towards that. So I tried to fight against that. And of course, I was also hearing that they could kill me, they could do many things. So I tried to fight against them, tried to push my legs, or try to bite on their hand, the hand around my neck or something. And they were very angry and they would just beat me like anything. And then somebody came up with was showing me a knife. Somebody came up with the electric taser. This is what they started using. An electric taser was something like a huge horseshoe with uh, with a pipe in the front, which was going around. All I haven't seen something like this machine, which was having electric sparks, and they would just put it on my hand, and for a second, with this shocker, I would become unconscious. So whenever I was more aggressive, they would use this, and they used it on my hand maybe 3-4 times, on my face here, on particularly in the left hand side between the nose and the eye, even on the leg. And they were fighting and they took total control. And by that time, I was perspiring and almost unconscious by then. And I said, okay, just be and do what you want, but please don't beat me more. Please don't beat me more. This was a request.
All this was happening in your friend Barbara's sitting room. Is that correct?
That's correct. Of course, she moved out somewhere. She was not on the scene, but she was in the house only. But she was not in the front of the scene. And there were all people around me, and I couldn't see her. But she didn't protest. She didn't do anything at all. And then this was whatever I told you. The happening was for 6 to 8 minutes. I'm just telling you. They were swift, and then a couple of people went out on the marina side door, brought one wheelchair inside the house, and 2 meters away from the sofa, they held me and they put me on this wheelchair, and they started with a rope tying me up from everywhere. Remember, all the time they were still beating me and keeping me in total control. And I was almost half unconscious that time. And the way they did was that the 2 people were tying up my legs. 2 people tied up my hands on the chair, and my body was also tied up. And they suddenly got black glasses which were opaque, and so I couldn't see further. Okay, and yet, because even in the wheelchair, even with roping and everything, I was trying to get up or fight. Again, they would use taser, these electric shocks, to put me back in the position. Again, this went on for another 3, 4, 5 minutes, or maybe 7, 8 minutes. And then they put a gag in my mouth, which was not very huge, so I couldn't, shout or something, but I was becoming breathless. And then when they took me, then they, with the dark glasses, I couldn't see anything. But I believe they turned around my chair and moved towards Marina side. This must have happened. And that particular time, they put a mask on me, and they took out the gag, and they put a very huge gag in my mouth, because they were afraid that if I make a noise on Marina or something, I would catch attention of many people. Of course, I didn't see anything of this, but this is what I thought. And I was completely breathless at that particular moment. And I was put on maybe a boat. I haven't seen that boat. And I was choked. And I don't even remember that how long was that particular boat ride or something, but I could feel that this was a boat, because it was a marina, and it was the water noise and the boat noise and all this thing was coming a little bit in my ears. But I don't even know how long the trip was. But then suddenly I find myself, I was, of course, my wheelchair and everything it was just like a commodity that they were handling, as and when I saw, I was in the middle of a huge boat.
Okay, if I could just stop you there, because I want to show you something before you go on to the transfer onto another boat. Let me show you something, and then we can carry on from there. Do you recognize this person?
Yeah, this is Barbara Jabarik. To be very honest, I knew only her as a Barbara. The Jabarik name, she herself told me this time that how you spell my surname is you put J against Arabic, along with Arabic. So it's Jarabic. So it was very easy to remember. That's what she told me.
So you are 100% certain that this is Barbara, the person that you mentioned earlier about going to her house and being kidnapped in that house.
That's correct, right?
How many people entered this flat from where you were picked up? Can you remember roughly how many people?
There were about 7 to 9 people. You can safely say about 7 to 8 people were there.
Okay.
They were all very tall, and they were all like Indian origin, or maybe 1 or 2 Antiguan origin or something, but mostly you could see they were like from India.
Okay. And then on the boat, when they opened your blindfold, how many people were on the boat?
Well, mostly, that particular time I could see only 3 people, 2 Indian tall guys, and 1 of the helper from a crew. Finally, I came to know that there were totally 5 people on the boat, 2 Indian guys, and 3 other, out of which 1 was the owner of the boat, 1 was a crew of the boat, and the other 1 was a captain, again a crew of the boat. There were 3 of them and 2 of these people. And so, of course, these 2 gentlemen were very tall. They were like 6 feet or above. 1 was 5.9, the other one was maybe 6.2, 6.5. But there were 2 Punjabis, and they were huge, and very well. They said that they're raw agents and they've been in the army and all these kind of things. We went into conversation, particularly while we were in deck, and when I got some senses and some breathing or something, and they said that they are raw agents and they're taking me for interrogation. And again, they would be very tough with me and beat me here and there, slap me and things like that, and telling that they're going for interrogation. And I was asking them, where are we going? Because always in back of my mind, I thought that they would take me to Guyana or something. They said, it's none of your business, just keep quiet. They were very rough and very rude with me, of course. And they particularly see that don't see in left of your boat, which finally I came to know when I saw some light, there was some flag there. And that's why they didn't want to announce where this boat belonged to or something like this. The owner of the boat was an old guy with a beard, and the two other gentlemen were young. Again, this was over a time that I learned. There were totally about 3 of them, and otherwise these 2 guys were in charge of me.
And
And
how long?
immediately.
Sorry, how long was this journey?
Sorry?
How long was this journey on this boat?
Well, in my opinion, the journey was more than 15 to 16 hours. If I take that it started at 6:30, we reached Dominica at 9:30 the next morning. So in my opinion, it was 15, 16 hours. They were talking about 13 and a half, 14 hours or something like this. And these 2 gentlemen.
Yeah.
So on the boat, while I was taking breath and I was coming to my conscious and things like that, and they were still very tough. And then one by one, both of them went to their room, came into a, kind of a Pathani salwar kameez, Punjabi clothes, very long kameez, and one was in a black, and the other guy had a dark blue. They were very similar,
okay.
Both of them.
Well, let me just stop you there. Let me stop you there, because I want to show you something. Do you recognize these 2 persons?
Yeah, this was a particularly dresses that they were wearing, and they took these photographs. I could hear from a cabin when they arrived in Dominica, somebody was taking and clicking, maybe a crew member or whatever, but I could just hear that they were taking and clicking the photographs outside.
So these are the 2 people.
Yes. These were the people, yes.
Were on the boat and who were basically having captured you. They were taking you to Dominica. These 2, you remember them clearly? You can identify them clearly?
Very, very clearly, very clearly. The person on right-hand side who is not holding the rope was a bit nicer. The other person was more rough. They told me also their age, that he's 50 and the other one is about 62, 63 years old, which was more fatter, and this was more in a shape. And till then I was under belief that these are raw agents, to be very honest. Even when I reached Dominica, I had heard stories about the raw agents, and they are around islands and around places world over, and I'd heard these stories. So I always believed that they were agent of the raw. And finally, when I reached back and thought about it, the whole job was probably outsourced by Indian agencies to these people, whatever I heard about them afterward. I came to realize many days after that this was an outsourced job by Indian agencies given to these people. And these were a professional, whether you call them kidnapper or human trafficker or whatever. This is what I hear now, or I get it now.
Mehul, Choksi, thank you for your time.